Have you been interested in IoT but not sure how to make money with it? Hey, a few months back, I recorded a conversation with Luis Alvarez, an IT business owner who let me in on his secret recipe for making money with IoT. Now, Lewis shares how he stumbled onto the opportunity, perfected it, and then shares three IoT managed services that are making him over seven figures of recurring revenue right now. Now, these are IoT managed services you can and should be selling right now in any market. In fact, my conversation with Lewis is the reason I decided to launch IoT Playbook, a new podcast designed for technology business owners to help them grab their share of this $500 billion IoT managed service opportunity. So, if you've ever wondered how to make money with IoT, or if you're an IoT vendor who wants to build out a channel of IoT ready business partners, then head on over to podcast.iotplaybook.com right now, where I'll show you the actual playbooks that IoT managed service providers are using to make seven figures or more of recurring revenue right now. Hey, this is Mark Smith from IoT Playbook, and I'm really excited about this particular episode with Luis Alvarez. Luis is the owner of Alvarez Technology Group, an MSSP in Salinas, California, with around 200 clients. Now, Luis specializes in agribusiness and cannabis clients, but has a wide range of clients. And today we're going to talk about a brand new service that Luis has launched. Actually, it's not new to you, Luis. You've been doing this now for over 6 months or more. But
yeah, a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, and it's already generating over $1 million of recurring revenue for his company. And it's a business actually that any MSP can start easily. And quite frankly, the opportunity, and he told me this story before, was literally in plain sight, but he couldn't see it until he discovered it by accident. So I'm super excited to hear his story and let everybody else in on what he's discovered and what he's actually doing with his clients. So welcome, Luis.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so we have developed a network monitoring service. I mean, we're a traditional MSP, started like a lot of MSPs doing break fix, and then eventually moved into this whole concept of managed services. And that was wrapped around PCs and servers primarily. You know, when you think of a managed services provider, you typically are looking at somebody that's managing devices that users need to do their work, which are typically PCs and servers. But one of the things that we started to discover is that there's a network behind all of that. I mean, we all know it fundamentally because we set them up, but at least I didn't think about that there would be money to be made by monitoring that. And to your point, the story that I told you was when one of our clients is a retirement community, senior retirement community located here in the Monterey County area. And it's a high-end facility, so they have a lot of programs for the people, the residents that are there, and the people that come in from outside the community, including, they got dining and pools and all this stuff. Big, huge campus. And one of the things that they provide is Wi-Fi access, wireless access for all of the residents, as well as all of the seniors that come into these common public areas. And we had set that up, but our primary job with them was we're a managed services provider, so we were managing the systems that the staff use, the PCs and the servers, helping those users with their day-to-day tasks. And one day I was visiting with a client, and he all of a sudden started talking about the wireless problems that they've been having, and I wasn't aware of anything, and he said, "Oh yeah, I get complaints. You should see it. There's nothing worse than an angry senior who can't get his iPad connected to the Wi-Fi. They'll come screaming at the office and wondering why the Wi-Fi at the library isn't working, or why the Wi-Fi in the public courtyard isn't working, and demanding that it get fixed right away." And he said, "Is that something you guys can do? Can you take care of that for me so I don't have to deal with it anymore?" And I said, "Absolutely." Now, at the time, I didn't know what the problem really was or what the solution was going to be, but I never say no. So I said, "Absolutely. We can take care of that for you. We can make sure that everything's up and running and it's taken care of, and if anything happens, we can fix it right away. And if there's any complaints, they can call us instead of calling you." And he said, "Great. How much is that going to cost me?" And I know better than saying, okay, I'm going to go back to the office and take out my Excel spreadsheet and calculate my costs. Because once the immediacy of the pain is gone, I may go back to somebody like this and they'll say, well, I've been thinking about it. We're fine. So I knew I had to come up with something. So I just quickly in my head said, okay, how about $480? $480 a month, and I'll monitor all of your Wi-Fi's networks. And he said, great, let's make that happen. So now I was challenged to find out how I was going to make that happen. And so I started doing some research and discovering that there was a lot of technology out there that went beyond the traditional RMM tool. So most of us are familiar with things like Automate, formerly LabTech, or Autotask, or all these RMM tools that are out there that are really good at managing PCs, servers, patch management, reporting performance on those systems, alerting you if drives are filling up, that sort of stuff. They're very good at that. What they're not good at, I've learned, is monitoring what I consider the fastest growing area of technology, and that's IoT, or non-PCs and servers, right? These Internet of Things devices that are located all over our networks now, and they already outnumber the number of PCs and servers, and with this coupled with this rapid move to cloud services, we're going to see fewer traditional devices that we're going to be maintaining and more of these other devices. So I started looking for an RMM tool of some sort that was good at that. Mm-hmm. And I found one that worked really well and let us monitor and manage devices like we did PCs and servers with our traditional RMM tool. We use Automate. And I was blown away by the amount of information that I could gather from these devices, the level of access that I had to these devices once they were properly configured. Once you set up SNMP and you set up SSH and Telnet and all these other services that a lot of us don't ever even bother doing. Most MSPs deploy a switch or a router, switch primarily, or Wi-Fi access point, and they don't bother doing anything other than just the configuring access and making sure that people can use those devices. But if you enable SNMP and you enable a lot of the functionality that allows these systems to be managed, you get a lot of information from these devices that then can help you detect problems, just like you can with PCs. Be proactive about monitoring and be able to get to problems much faster and roll fewer trucks, because a lot of times in our world, since we've implemented this additional tool, what we've learned is that we are going on site much less than we were before, because now we can diagnose the entire network and not just the PCs and servers. So in the past, a user would call from one of our clients and say, hey, I can't get on the internet. And we try to connect to their PC, couldn't connect to their PC with our remote access tool. So we said, well, we have to, can you reboot it? We do some simple troubleshooting with the client. They finally say, look, just send somebody out here to fix it. And then we get out there and it turns out that maybe somebody had unplugged a switch, or somebody had, or a switch was just locked up, or maybe there's a network connection that got disconnected. Well, now we can see that. We can trace the route all the way to that individual PC and be able to troubleshoot without the client having to crawl under their desk and do a bunch of stuff for us. Can you go look behind your PC and see if you see the yellow light back there? That sort of stuff is frustrating to clients, because that's what they pay us to do, right? So we're rolling fewer trucks, and we're rolling, there's less of a need to go on site. So go back to my senior center there. So we deployed the tool, we mapped out their network, we identified all the devices, make sure that they were properly configured, and now we know exactly what's going on that Wi-Fi network. And whenever there's a problem, we can get to it faster. It doesn't take a lot of effort, quite frankly, because these devices are bulletproof in most cases, but occasionally you will have a problem, a power outage that will cause a device to go down, or you'll have some sort of corruption in the firmware. But we can see all that. And when somebody does call and say and asks us, well, why can't I connect to the Wi-Fi? Well, we can see all the clients that are connected to each access point, and we can identify if they are connecting, if they're not connecting, and why they're not connecting, and diagnose it and troubleshoot it. So they're getting faster turnaround. They're getting real help as opposed to going to the office staff and the office staff saying, "Well, I don't know. Have you restarted your tablet? I don't know what to tell you. We'll call somebody." So it's satisfied that client. They think they're getting a great deal for $480. We're not spending that much time providing the service. A lot of it is automated. A lot of it is generated by the RMM tool itself. So we don't have to have somebody watching these access points all the time. So it was a win-win. And so since then, we've duplicated that by going out to all of our existing clients and upselling them to this network management offering. And we found all of them wanted it. I mean, there's a few that said no, but it was mostly due to budget issues and not necessarily the lack of desire to do it. So it's an easy business to add to your existing managed services. Or if you're brand new MSP and you are going to be one of those next gen MSPs, MSP version 3.0, I think we're on now, or 4.0, I forget. Maybe this is an area of focus for you, and you leave the traditional stuff alone.
So now you went to all your existing clients, and like you say, you're upselling them on that. What about new clients? That might come on. Is this something that you offer to new clients as well?
Absolutely. In fact, it's the managed services. You're hearing more and more has become something of a commodity, right? So it used to be that when we went out and pitched ourselves as a managed services provider, our clients or the prospect would say, "Well, what's that? How are you different than my IT guy now?" So you had to explain it. Well, now when you go in and you say, "I'm an MSP," they're like, "Yeah, fine. I got 10 MSPs called me last week. So why are you different? How are you different?" So you have to find a point of differentiation, especially when you're out trying to gather new clients. And what we are doing is we're leading with network monitoring and management rather than traditional MSP. Let us take care of your entire of all your PCs and servers. And especially in certain industries that you mentioned, that we're very active in agriculture and very active in the cannabis industry. We're in California. Cannabis legalization is about going on a year and a half now, and it's still a booming business. And these operators that are creating, they're in the growing manufacture and distribution of cannabis. They have a lot of people, not a lot of PCs, because they don't need a lot of PCs. In fact, most of them use tablets, use smartphones to connect to their ERP system. But what they do have is a boatload of surveillance cameras, a boatload of automation, because they're trying to be a very highly automated industry. And those are all devices that need to be managed and need to be monitored. And what we've learned is that each device has its own silo of management and monitoring. And so there's not this single pane of glass where you can go in and say, okay, I want to see where all my cameras are at. I want to know if a camera goes down. And if a camera goes down, is it because a switch got disconnected? Those are two different systems. So you can get the alert that the camera went down, but you don't know why. And so what we offer them is a single pane of glass. You can see everything on your network. We can hook in traditional IoT systems, things like Zigbee and all these protocols that most IT guys don't know about, because that's kind of in the OT, the operational technology world. But we can manage it all and see all these inputs and be able to create a single portal of information for them where they can go in and see everything. And more importantly, we can go in and see everything. So we offer it as a managed services. We also offer it as hey, we can deploy this, and you just pay us a fee for the service, and you can manage it yourself, or we can deploy it and we can manage it for you, and that's going to cost you a lot more. and we've been very successful. We continue to do it, and it lets us be. We're regional MSP. That is, we're located in Northern California, and the bulk of our clients have been within 150 miles of us. But now we're able to reach out anywhere. In fact, we got a call from a cannabis operator in Nevada who heard about us through another cannabis operator here in Monterey County, and he said, "Hey, yeah, can you deploy that same system over here, or do you only work in California?" And we're like, "No, we'll go anywhere." And so we're negotiating with them on setting that up. So it lets us become more global in nature. It lets us grow our business outside of the region, and doesn't mean I have to have people everywhere in the country. I can do this all remotely.
So, okay, so you've got the base level service that'll work on pretty much anybody, right? The network monitoring and alerting kind of service that you sell for $480 a month. But now you've talked about with that vertical, the cannabis deal, where you're able to now charge a sort of a management service, a level higher. And like, what is that running approximately?
Well, it depends on the size and the number of sites, but typically it starts around $2,400.
Okay.
And it goes up from there. And the value to them is, this is a highly regulated industry, and I'm a big fan of regulation when it comes to, especially in California, because those regulations make us money, as clients have to comply with all those regulatory compliance issues. And there's no more regulated industry, maybe other than banking, than the cannabis industry in California. And they have to follow a strict number of rules. And if they don't, they risk losing their permit. So for us, that's an opportunity to go in and say, hey, let us make sure that you are never at risk. Because if we monitor all of your systems, which is one of the critical aspects of the compliance regime, which is, you need to be able to report to the state if you have any sort of outage, any sort of problems, because that might, to the state, that might indicate that you're trying to do some black market shenanigans. So they want to make sure, for example, everything is on camera, 7x24. It's not motion. It's like all the time. You're recording everything, even if nothing's going on. And they want to be able to get to those recordings for a period of time, whether that's, in some cases it's 45 days, some cases it's 90 days. But all of that stuff requires management. All of that stuff requires staying on top of what's going on with those systems. And these guys they're just trying to grow cannabis and sell it. They don't want to go into the IT business. They don't want to go into the surveillance business. So they much prefer having a partner like us come in and just say, hey, we can take care of this for you. If something happens, we'll do the state reporting so you don't have to do it. And if anything changes, if the laws change, if the regulations change, we'll be the ones to tell you that they've changed, because we stay on top of them.
Now, video surveillance is typically done by what I would call an OT guy, an operational technology guy, maybe like a physical security company. And you're coming at it from the IT perspective. How is that different? I mean, so in many cases, I imagine you're competing with the OT guys.
Absolutely.
How are you able to win that business, and what's the differentiation that an IT guy can bring versus a traditional OT?
I think that the best way to answer that question is to tell you the story how we got into the surveillance business in the first place. And that was, we were working with this was pre recreational use, back when California only had medical cannabis. And we had a small client that was a medical marijuana producer, and they had a growing operation as well as a manufacturing operation, and they distributed it to dispensaries throughout the state. And they had some cameras and things like that, but we didn't do it. That was the OT guys. They had a alarm company that had set up their access control as well as their camera system, and we did their IT for them. We did the computers, the networking, firewall, that sort of stuff. Well, fast forward to recreational use being approved in November of 2016, and the good people of California, being very anxious to get their hands on pot, said, okay, state of California, we're going to give you 1 year to put into place all the rules and regulations so that we can start buying it January of 2018. That's not a lot of time to create an entire regulatory structure to basically create a brand new department, the Bureau of Cannabis Control, and then develop all the rules and regs around it. So California decided to borrow a lot of the rules and the laws from the state of Colorado, and then modify them and make them tighter because it's California, and we don't want anybody else to have better regs than we do, so we're going to create better ones. So we got our hands on those and told our client, hey, your cameras are not going to fly because the regulations were very specific. Things like what the frames per second were, things like what the resolution had to be, how much storage had to be done. And none of the systems they had in place were going to be compliant with these new rules. And they were surprised because their vendor hadn't told them. We did as IT people, and they said, well, can you solve that problem for us? Can you come up with a solution? We're building this brand new building that's going to be dedicated to our growing cannabis business, because we think we're going to explode in size as recreational use becomes more popular. So we said, yeah. And they said, well, we already have a quote from our alarm company that did our other system. And we said, yeah, I'm sure those cameras aren't compliant either, but okay. They said, so, just be cognizant of that. And we said, yeah, no, that doesn't bother us. So we went through just trying to find some vendors that would work with us. And lo and behold, it turned out the vendors were looking for people just like us. These high-end surveillance systems have all moved into the IT realm. They're all IP based now. They all are managed by computers. They're all very, very information technology centric. And these vendors are having a hard time getting their OT guys, the people that have been with them forever, to make the switch because they don't understand it. They don't want to learn it. They just say, look, we just are going to buy the same old stuff we've always bought. And that's good enough for us. So we basically put together this design, this architecture using all brand new technology, all IP based, all compliant with the California rules as we knew they were coming down. And it was half the cost of the traditional OT guy, their surveillance system, because I don't know why, I suspect they they had significant margin in there, perhaps. So that's what launched us into it. And since then, we've gotten a lot of calls from other vendors in the surveillance and access control space that are all moving into this new IP-based world that depends on the network. And so they're looking for partners who are IT smart, because you don't have to worry about the old camera systems. You don't have to worry about coax cabling and all this other stuff that you would do in the past. Now it's all wireless cameras, IP-based cameras, all computer controlled, all computer managed. And anybody who's in IT today should be getting into surveillance, because it's a hugely growing business, not just in the cannabis space, but cameras are popping up everywhere because people are becoming much more security conscious. And unfortunately, we live in a world where litigation, if you don't protect yourself, can be a problem. So we've been approached by schools and even we're working with a couple of construction companies for their surveillance systems, because they have these big, huge projects that are multi-year projects where they have very, very expensive equipment that sometimes gets stolen. So they want to be able to monitor and alert on activities going on in their construction sites. And so we've developed solutions around that. And there's a ton of vendors out there that have very specific solutions for all of these industries. And we've just gone out and found them.
Okay, so you got that. Now you mentioned another industry really briefly there that's almost as regulated as cannabis, and that was banking.
Yep.
Now you've got banking clients that you're doing this for, but they wanted a little bit more alerting or something like that.
Yeah. So that was another element of call it serendipity, call it good luck. As we started getting into this network monitoring and management thing that we added to our business, our banking clients, we have several of them, started to get new mandates from the regulatory agencies that they report to, primarily the FDIC. And the FDIC, because of cyber attacks, has really tightened the screws on security in these smaller banks. It used to be something that Bank of America, Wells Fargo, those guys had to adhere to, but now they push that down to even small community banks, and basically saying you need to make sure that you're compliant with these rules. And some of those rules include things like knowing everything that's on your network and alerting the moment something new connects to your network. So you can't just say, yeah, here's our network diagram. They want to know that you are monitoring what's going on the network, so that if there's data that is going to a foreign country, for example, you know about it. So traditional firewalls are great, but if something gets behind the firewall and gets implanted on a PC, and then that PC is now transmitting data to a site in China, they want to make sure that bank knows about that. So these banks are coming to us going, okay, how do we do all this stuff? Fortunately for us, the RMM tool that we use for network monitoring gives us that capability. So we're able to alert on any new device that plugs into the network the moment that it gets on the network. We're able to alert on and block traffic going to suspicious countries. So we have a whitelist of where data can go and block everything else. You can do things like do network reports that show traffic and flow and where data is going. And so when our clients get audited every year by the FDIC, this team of people that show up just to harass them, I think, but whatever, we provide all this data, all these reports. And so the IT portion of their annual audit is a non-factor, because we're being very proactive at providing them information that shows that we are doing everything that's required and some to maintain a very safe environment and prevent cyber attacks.
So in the case of do some of the banks even want you to do like real-time alerting? Like, for example, someone's putting a brand new laptop or any kind of IP device on the network. Do they want you to literally call them in real time and say, hey, this is happening. Do you want to let this on or not?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
I mean, that's where the regulation has gotten to. And same thing for any new applications that are installed.
Okay.
So we lock down the PCs so that they can't install applications, but still, you can't just use that and say, well, I built the walls and I'm safe. Well, you have built the walls, but you still need to have an alarm system in case somebody over the wall. So we have tools that report in real time if somebody's trying to install something and if they're successful. But then that lets us catch things like malware that's trying to install itself, and changes to the registry that are suspicious. We monitor that as well. So the cool thing about this whole journey that we've begun with network monitoring and management in IoT spaces, as I said earlier, the number of IoT devices are only going to continue to grow.
Right.
And we now recognize that they are as susceptible to cyber attacks as a PC or server or a laptop. So we have to protect those devices and do all the same things that we were doing with the traditional PCs and servers, which means monitoring the device, automatically patching it. We're not there yet, but that's the direction we want to go, and we're looking for ways to make that happen. Detecting any sort of intrusions on those devices, reporting on misbehavior. Hey, this device, this is a printer that never sends more than 200 packets a day, and it's transmitting like 1 million packets right now. So what the hell's going on with that printer? Those are things that traditionally nobody cares about, because that's just a printer. It's no big deal. But now every device is an intelligent device, and every device can be hijacked for to do bad things. So it's important that we as MSPs continue to evolve and provide coverage for those devices above and beyond just the network or the PCs and servers.
So I think bottom line is now when you walk into a prospect, maybe in the old days, you'd walk through the front door and kind of look for the laptops and maybe look for the server or the firewall, whatever. So that was your opportunity. Now, as you're pulling into the parking lot, there's opportunity jumping out at you, from the cameras on the walls to every last thing in the entire building and maybe multiple buildings in this case.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we're looking to expand into all areas of IoT, including building automation. This concept of smart buildings is something that has been a big push again in California. But as California goes, so goes the rest of the country, right? So California is trying to make sure that everything we do is energy efficient, that uses less water than before, uses less power than before, preserves and sustains the environment. So smart buildings are the way we're going to be able to make that happen. That is where you connect up everything that your building is doing, from the HVAC to the lighting system to the irrigation system, maybe outside, and the whatever other systems you have, and put that all into a central console that lets you monitor all of that and manage it and say, okay, well, it's, we don't want our HVAC to go over, it's cold outside, we get that, but 68 is the warmest you're going to make it in the building. And nobody can violate that. And you can see if somebody's doing it and then take action to prevent it from happening. So a lot of these controls, I think, are going to become more commonplace, just like they are in our homes. I mean, you take a look at your house. How many IoT devices do you have? I can tell you, if I look at my DHCP log, I have about like 30 devices in my house that are talking to the internet at any given time. The TVs, the Nests on the wall, the surveillance camera system that we have at home. They're all connected, and that presents opportunity for us as managed services providers to offer to manage and monitor those things. And they also offer a lot of in terms of cybersecurity, there's some threats there that we need to be aware of. So, you got to get smart on, if you're going to get into the IoT space, you also got to get smart on cybersecurity as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for IoT Playbook viewers, listeners, you actually put together a course that we call like IoT MSP, right? The IoT managed service provider, where you kind of break all this stuff down, right? Inside the course. Yeah. So what all do you do inside there?
Well, the course is really designed to provide somebody who's an IT service provider now, it doesn't matter whether you're break fix or MSP, and you want to get into the IoT space. It's sometimes difficult because you can buy all the tools, you can buy all the shiny objects, but at the end of the day, how do they all work? What's the business case? How do you sell this to your client? And so we walk you through step by step the entire process, from picking the right tools that will let you do the work, to developing the contracts and the agreements. You'll get access to those. To how do you market? Who's the target market? Where do I start? What do I say? How do I pitch this? So we walk you through that entire process. So by the end of it, you walk away being able to start your own IoT MSP business focused on this new generation of devices that are going to overwhelm what we have traditionally serviced. So it's a huge opportunity for managed services providers that are seeing their revenues start to decline because their clients are moving to the cloud. So they have devices internally, right? And their users now are smarter. So maybe this is not the baby boomer generation that we started working with. These are the Gen Xers and the Gen Yers, and they're more technology savvy than most of us. So they don't need a lot of hand holding. So how do you add value? What are the things that you can do to help grow your business in a new way and in a new direction. And I think IoT MSP is one of those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even in there, you even get into the whole like how to upsell existing clients, like during the quarterly business review process, and then as you just mentioned, it's now become one of your standard ways of getting in new clients as well. It's kind of like one of the first things you can sell on your value ladder because I would say it would lead naturally. You offer to monitor and alert somebody, and then as soon as they say, well, what if I needed you to actually manage that thing? You say, well, as a matter of fact, we have that, right? The next level of service up and to your full blown MSSP bundle, which covers everything, I imagine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it again, it gives you a point of differentiation. Like I said, there's an MSP on every street corner now. So just like Starbucks, if you're starting a new, if you want to not be Starbucks but still have people buy your coffee, you got to be different, because you can't say I'm just like Starbucks, because they're going to say, well, then I should just go to Starbucks, right? Because if you're just like them, so you have to be different. You have to be, you have to add something to the mix that makes your prospects or your existing clients say, oh, this is why I do business with this person, or this is why I want to do business with this person. And if you can talk that language and you can, let them see that you're more than just a one-trick IT pony, you're going to get a lot more business and a lot more opportunity, because they will want to work with you, because they see that they need help.
Right. And as you add more value, especially in these verticals, like you talked about, some of the margins on some of these services you're offering are probably some of the best you've seen.
They are pretty darn good. Let me just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, hey, Luis, this has been super, really helpful. You've really, I think opened the eyes of a lot of people to this opportunity. And I know you're looking at a lot of other opportunities that are coming up, like AI and other things that we can go into in a future episode, but appreciate it. And if anyone wants to take advantage of this literal how-to class, it takes you from, I don't know, diddly about IoT to here's a service that you can deliver with all the pieces you need. You can just click the link below and take advantage of that class.
Absolutely. I think you'll find it well worth the money.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Great time.